Okay, so you found the perfect job.
Yes.
But you've got one last hurdle to overcome. The interview.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. Well, here with tips on how to ace the all-important sit-down is career expert Julie Hochheiser-Ilkovich. Welcome.
Thank you for having
that
me back.
name.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's got swag.
Yes.
Like you go this way, and you're like, oh, over here. And then you're like,
It's all over the
it's
place.
all over the place. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, but preparation for this interview should not be all over the place. So
No.
once we have it scheduled, what do we need to start doing to prepare for it?
Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is research. Now that everyone has access to Google, you really can find out a lot of information about the job that you are applying for. So some key things you'll want to learn about. You'll want to learn about the company. So what's the mission of the company that you're going to work at? So when you are doing your interview, you can kind of feel like you're on mission, you're on brand for that company.
Okay.
You should look at who are the executives of that company, who are the leaders. You should definitely familiarize yourself with that before you go.
Okay.
And also make sure to look at, has that company been in the news? So good news and bad news. You want to be familiar. It could really save you from, saying something inappropriate.
Right.
But you don't want to get too personal with the person interviewing. Like, how's your kids Jill and Johnny doing? Like, I saw it on Facebook. Like, wait a minute.
Definitely. You
Stalker.
almost have too much access because you have access to these people. If they're not good at privacy settings, you could see their Facebook along with maybe their Twitter and LinkedIn. So you should research the person who's interviewing you, but make sure to keep it professional when you're bringing things up.
Very
So
important.
maybe you see what college they went to, and that's totally
Okay.
appropriate. Maybe you went to the same school, and that could be something you could bond over, but not, oh, I'm a creepy stalker, and I saw your kids, and I know what they look like, and I'm coming to your house to get
That's true.
So just be careful.
Okay, now the first impression is a lasting one.
Yes.
And you can wow or turn off a person by what you're wearing. So what are the
Totally.
rules regarding attire?
So there's some general rules. Number one, my biggest rule, no jeans. It is never appropriate, even if it's a really casual work environment, it's never appropriate to wear jeans to an
Okay.
interview. It's
Okay.
just not.
So no jeans.
No jeans. Let's just go there. You also, you want to be dressed appropriately in terms of modesty. You don't have to be really modest, but you want to be covered up, probably no crop tops or shorts if you're a woman. But the one interesting thing that really has been evolving is it used to be that you had to wear a suit to an interview. So like everyone wanted to wear a suit, and I've actually had experience at interviews where I've walked in a suit and been like, I'm way overdressed, I'm too stuffy, I'm giving off the wrong impression. So what you really want to do is kind of dress for the job that you're interviewing for.
Okay.
So a law firm, or if you're going to a bank job, then you will want to wear a suit. But if you're going to a more creative job, or if you guys were interviewing here, you would want to wear something that fit your personality a little bit more, is appropriate, as business or even business casuals, that maybe in a more casual work environment.
Okay.
But something that isn't stuffy and it shows off your personality can make a great first impression.
Okay, well, I know one of the common questions people get asked in the interview, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses?
yeah.
But how can you answer that without being cliche, like, oh, I'm a workaholic,
Right.
I'm an overachiever.
I'm a perfectionist.
Darn, right, exactly.
Yeah, we've all,
Well, that's a tough
those are such
one.
cliched answers.
Right.
And you're going to get a ton of questions that you can really prepare for and that are kind of challenging and almost annoying, like, oh, what's your worst trait?
Right.
So the approach to that usually is come prepared with something that is maybe a little bit negative about yourself, and make sure to talk about how you're fixing that. So for example, my old job, they told me I'm outspoken at meetings, but I'm trying to kind of gauge when I should speak at meetings and how outspoken I should be depending on the meeting. So it almost sounds like you're doing a good job at trying to correct that, and also it's not something that's really that bad in the first place, what you're doing.
What if you say my worst trait is that I hate that question?
Right?
No!
Pretty good. My worst trait is I get angry when someone asks me about my worst trait, but I'm trying to work on that.
Right,
So I'd like someone to try that and tweet us and let us know how that goes.
They will
Good
not
luck.
be getting the job. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do
Don't
it.
do that? All right. When should we start talking about money? During the interview, after you've been given an offer, should we bring up a ballpark figure that would make us happy? What do we do?
Usually,
Especially women. We really
Right.
have a tough time having that conversation.
Usually it's after the first kind of interview, your first interaction is when you want to start talking about money. So
Okay.
you don't want to come right out of the gate with the money thing just because you want to show them all the other things about the job that are important to you, how you're qualified. So, after you've had that initial conversation and they're feeling good, and maybe it's even the very end of the first interview,
Okay.
you can talk about money. You should be prepared, though, that they may ask you about money from the very beginning. So you don't want to bring it up, but you should be prepared. What are your figures? What are you going to, talk about from your last job? What are you willing to take? Things like that. Some people, if a company has a specific budget, they're going to come right out of the gate with the money. That's going to, just to make sure they're not wasting their time.
Right.
So be prepared, but I wouldn't bring it up until after the first interview and you've kind of already made a bond or a relationship.
And should we bring up a number that's double what we were making at our previous job? No, I'm
Sounds good.
serious.
It's a great question, and I
Yeah.
get that a lot. And I actually just had this conversation with someone who's making such a low number at their current job that she's like, I can't even make 50% more. I can't ask for 50% more, but I need more than 50% more.
Yeah.
So it's not great to lie, but in this situation, it is okay to fib the numbers a little bit, talk about what you're worth more, and when you're giving your increases, you don't have to be completely transparent because your old job situation, you might have started very low and moved up within the
That's
company and be way under your worth. So it is okay to kind of give really what you want numbers, not necessarily real numbers.
So once you survive the interview,
Yes.
how should you follow up and how soon should you follow
Oh,
up?
that's a good question.
So immediately, no longer than 24 hours, you should write a thank you note.
Okay.
And
24 hours?
would be I would say the longest you
Like,
might want to
I've
wait.
taken thank you notes with me, and on the way out, handed it to the mailroom and get that
That's a
upstairs.
really great. That's a great
'Cause
tip.
if I try to mail
Wow.
it, it won't happen.
Right. Well, I would say.
And it's a handwritten thank
Well,
you
so
note
I
or
would
an email?
do both. So if you don't have to do both, everyone should send an email thank you note. I think those are completely appropriate.
Okay.
You don't have to write a handwritten note, excuse me. So write the thank you note in the email, send it immediately that night or the next day. If you do want to send a handwritten note, make sure you also send the email because you run the risk of it getting lost in the mail and that person thinking, oh, I never got a thank you note from that person.
So true. Good
So
point.
make sure to do both, but you have to send a thank you note. Number one rule of a job interview. Many people I know that do interviewing, if they don't get a thank you note, that person is off the table in terms of the
that
job.
right?
Wow.
It's really competitive out there, so write the
so
thank you note.
No jeans.
No
and
jeans.
Always send a thank you note.
Send a thank you note and do your research.
And do your research.
Yes.
Very
All
great
right.
points. Thank you so
and
much
ask for
joining
double
us.
your previous.
Go for it. Why not? The worst they can say is no.
The worst thing they can say is no to all of it. So
All right. Thank you so
thank you
much.
so much for
Julie.
having me.
All
Thank
right.
you.
And we'll be right back with more Rise 360.